Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. On today's video, I'm coming at you with a wash day and just simple styling of my toddler's hair. And I always try to get her on a surface where she cannot move around that much, and the kitchen counter seems to work pretty well. Otherwise, if I put her on a high chair or a regular chair, she is pretty much trying to get away from me. So all I do is usually I have her hair in a simple hairstyle, usually 3 buns. And all I do is for wash day, I start off with just a spray bottle and just some tap water in it. And I spray her hair to just kind of get her hair moisturized and then begin the detangling process of her hair. And for some reason, she finds pleasure in drinking tap water, especially when it's in a spray bottle. So thank God it's safe and that it's just tap water. And that seems to keep her busy for a while, most of the time. And right now, a lot of the time I try to put a towel around her neck, but that never works. So she always takes it off and she's really, really, really busy. So right now, all I'm doing after I spray the water on her hair, I usually just go ahead and use my shampoo. And I part her hair in the smallest section and again, use the shampoo to help detangle her hair, because I really don't use comb much on my kids' hair, especially when she's this young. The older one is about 4 years old. That one I do use comb to detangle her hair, but with her being this young, I usually just use my fingers to detangle her hair. And I'm just putting the shampoo all over her hair now and kind of rub it through. And she seems to do pretty well, as long as usually I'll have the TV on, and that's her pushing me out the way because I'm actually blocking her view. She's watching something on TV, so she's like pushing me to get out the way. Again, I'm just detangling her hair. Most of the time is the back. That's the one that our hair tends to get tangled easily. Just because most of the time she's either laying down or doing different things that involves her hair rubbing on the floor. So again, I'm just going and getting myself ready and getting her ready to get washed. And all I do is make sure I have a towel lay down on the kitchen counter because of it's a hard surface. And one thing that I really love about this sink is the fact that the shower head is it can go in and out, and it makes it so easy to wash your hair. When I didn't have this, I had just a regular stationary one. I just used a cup and pour the water in there and wash your hair that way. So you can do it either or. I just use my hand and support one hand to support her head, and then the other hand to wash her hair. And she seems pretty comfortable. Most of the time, she does not fight you and does not try to get up. And I try using one of those shower hats that people have been talking about. But with her being this young, most of the time I try the smallest size and it just doesn't seem to fit very well. And most of the time, so the soap ended up going in her face. So I just prefer to use this method. Even my oldest, that's about 4 years old, this is how I wash her hair. Because if you try washing her hair in the shower, it never goes very well. And she ended up with soap in her eyes because she would not close her eyes. And then it just becomes a disaster. Right now, I'm just moisturizing her hair. And that's my oldest. Yep, so that's pretty much all I do. And I kind of rinse it off. And she's usually pretty comfortable. Once in a while, I'll have to use like suckers to kind of keep her quiet and calm when I'm washing her hair so she doesn't try to get up. But for the most part, it's really, really easy, and this seemed to work very well for us. And she's just playing with the shower, with the sink. And I usually just get a towel and dry her hair. And again, guys, I'm telling you, like having her on top of that counter helps so much, because otherwise she is like constantly trying to get away from me, like constantly every time you're doing her hair. But what helps is having her up there and having the TV on. This is just her hair washed with no product after I washed it. And her hair is pretty thick, guys. And most of the time in terms of product wise that I use, I literally only use coconut oil And I used olive oil, and there's this organic oil that I get from the dollar store, and that's all I've ever used on both of my kids' hair. And the hair seems to grow just fine. It's full, it's thick, and I just use rubber bands to style her hair. So all I do is just mix the coconut oil and the olive oil, and just moisturize her hair. That's pretty much all I do in terms of products. I really don't use a lot of products on her head at all. And again, I use this process here to kind of detangle her hair. And she's pretty much, I have the rubber bands on the counter, and she's taking each rubber band and dropping it on the floor, which I really like. I was just like, okay, I'll get to that later. And again, I'm just moisturizing her hair. The back of her hair sometimes can be really dry. So I tend to spend a little bit more time in the back of her head and putting a little bit more oils in the back there. So that way that keeps it all moist, and so it's not so dry. The rest of her hair is pretty soft and full all the way around, so which is nice. Yeah, and usually I spend about maybe 3 minutes just trying to make sure that the oils really get into her hair, and really and that's all I'm doing. I just use my fingers to detangle her hair. That's all I do. I hardly ever use any comb. Sometimes when I need to part, most of the time I use my fingers to part her hair, and if need be, if I want more of a straight part, then I'll use a comb. But otherwise I really don't comb her hair, especially she's so young and the scalp can be really tender. And here I'm just parting her hair. And again, I use my fingers first and then go in and using the comb. And I had to move over the other side. That's why I'm partly covering the camera, because she wants to see the TV and she kept pushing me the whole time that she needs to see. And I figure if I want to finish this hair, I need to get out of her way so she can get what she wants. There she go again. She's pretty much pushing me that I need to get out her way. She does pretty well with especially the simple hairstyles where I'm just putting her hair like three ponytails. She seems to do really well. And again, I just use one rubber band. And then I got these accessories from the local beauty supply. I don't know what they're actually called, but it's just this plastic round hair accessory things that I use on her hair every now and so. And when I tell you, for some reason, my kids really don't like a lot of accessories on their hair, because she will constantly try to pull it off, like constantly. So all I'm doing is just wrapping it around her hair and then just looping it around each other for it to be secure. And that's pretty much it. And then I move on to the next section of her hair. Again, just using my fingers to detangle her hair, and then use my fingers first to part, and then later on we use a comb to make the part a little bit more straight. This is probably one of the hardest things about having her on a counter, is that when you have to do the back, it makes it a little bit difficult, but you got to do what works for you. And with this particular child of mine, this is what works. So right now I'm just again using my fingers to kind of stretch her hair and not really needing any comb. So yeah. And that does pretty much the job most of the time, when I just use my fingers and my hands to detangle her hair. And I'm just using the rubber band again as to secure her hair. And I try not to make it too tight. Again, they're kids and their scalp can be pretty tender if you put the rubber band on too tight. Even with adults, when you use rubber bands, you always want to make sure they're not too tight. And again, I'm just using that hair accessory that I got from the local beauty supply. I really don't usually don't do too much with my kids' hair. My oldest, most of the time she has twist or braids. And when she was younger too, this is the most common hairstyle that I do on her head. And it doesn't take long at all. It kind of keeps you so that way you pay attention to your kids' hair by moisturizing it and styling it. She is really into that show. I think she's either watching Dave and Ava or she's watching this show on Netflix called Rainbow Ruby, I think it's called. It's her sister usually watches that show and she's like hooked on that show right now. So those are the two shows that she usually watches. And once that show is on, guys, she's for the most part she sits down and let me do her hair because she's focused on the hair on the show. And that's pretty much what I usually do in terms of my kids' hair. And then I just grab edge control and put like a little bit on her baby hair. But sometimes I use the edge control, sometimes I don't, because especially for a lot of kids, their baby hairs are always already laying down anyway. So I try not to bother her hair much. That's just the edge control that I use. I use the olive oil edge control, and that's pretty much it.